All right, so all I did, close down the mapping program, open it back up again. When in doubt, that cures most things computer related that aren't working the way you want them to. So here we're going to go back to add data. It's going to go back to the folder that I've told it to find. And sure enough, there's my Monroe County CT median value right here. So here's what I just add to my map. It's not a shape file. It is not blobs. So the map has no idea how to connect it to, or how to visually display it. But here it is, it's appeared right here. What I need to do is connect this table to blobs, to the shape. Make sure that the data that you're connecting to shapes, those two things are both about the same kind of geography. So this is data for census tracts. Here is shapes for census tracts. These two things can talk to one another. Depending on what you're doing, you may have zip code shapes, you may have county shapes, you may have place shapes. You can't connect census tract data to zip code shapes. Those two things can't talk to one another. So just a common way in which people run into some headaches is by trying to connect data for one geography to shapes of another geography. But so here I've got my shapes that I pulled down from the Tigerline website. These are 2010. The 2010 version that lasts 2010 to 2019. This data that I pulled is from 2019. So again, these two things can talk to one another. If I come back to my shape, so I know that my table is in, but I come to my shape, you right click. One of the tools, and again, this is going to be a valuable menu of greatest hits. Join is the thing that we want to do. And so we want to join a table with shapes. There may be other times where we want to join these dots, for example, to the census tract that they're within. That'd be a spatial kind of join. We'll come back to that. But right now we have a table and we have shapes. And so we're going to add this kind of join. And that pops up this window for you that's going to walk you through. If you're not sure what you're looking at, this version of ArcGIS has all these helpful sort of play-by-plays along the way. So anytime you hover over the eye, it's going to tell you what it is that field is. So we've got, here's our input. This is where we're putting data in. So it's pulled that name right. This is the table that we want to bring into that shape file. And so it's close. It just went and found the first table that I've uploaded. This isn't the one I want. But if you pull down on the menu bar, it's going to give you all the potential options. And there's my Monroe County one that I want. And now what we got to do, and again, if you hover over, it'll tell you a little bit about what it is that this field is doing, or what it is that it's waiting for. This is your chance to say, well, this is the column that has that geo-identifier in the shape file. And here's my column that has that same geo-identifier in my table. Anytime those two match up, join the shape file with the table. And so what you'll see here are just your column headings. And that's why I say, make sure your column headings are ones that you're gonna understand. These may not look familiar at all. These are the column headings that get spit out of that Tigerline shape website. But we just know enough that GeoID is that column that has our thing that we care about. So it populated this, this is not the one that I wanted. It went through and tried to find, all right, GeoID in the shapefile as text. It went through to find the first text field in my table and just assumed that was the one I wanted. I don't, that's not the one. And so you can check to see here are all of my column headings. And so there's GeoID is the one that I want. And you can say, okay. What will happen now, so I'm going to right click. If you go into your attribute table, we looked at this a little bit. This is the data that's behind. Now, these are just the purple blobs. These came right off Tigerline website. So this table included only really just identifying information. Here's the GeoID, the census tract name. It really didn't have a lot of information in it. But what's happened now that I've joined is if you scroll over, now here's my table. So here's my full ID, my GeoID, and my median value are now right here as part of this attribute table. So I've effectively brought my data from Excel, CSV, brought it into the map, and joined it up with a shapefile, and it's now part of this attribute table. If that makes sense. Here are my columns. Here's effectively my table just smushed right in, now associated with these shapes. So what that means is that I can go into symbology, just like we've been playing around with. Here it is already, but if I wanted to open this, I would click on symbology. It's up here already. And what I can do now I don't want them all to be purple. I want them to be shaded based on the median value. And so unique values are very helpful. For example, in my redlining map, when you have categories of things, I want one color for A, one color for B, C, and D. Here we've got graduated colors. Here we go again with the yellow to orange. It's gone and found any number of sort of continuous variables, if you will remember from their stats classes. It's gone through and found this only works for numbers. So if it's a text field, it's not going to be able to demonstrate them this way, but here's my median value. And so boom, what it's showing now doesn't look super pretty. Let me get rid of these. Now you can see how they overlap with my brown fields. That's what those dots are, but we don't need to look at those for right this second. But now you can see what median values look like across the city of Rochester. And again, just like we were playing around with, I can change if people want to go turquoise to fuchsia, which is a little bit hard on the eyes, but you can pick any color that you want to look at. So the lighter the shade, the lower the income or the lower the value. Here, if I wanted to change where these, where these categories stop. I can update where they start and stop, and now the shading is shifted a little bit. Maybe this is going to be a 149. So this is 2. And now this is shaded based on my breakdowns. But that is my census data pulled into the map. If I zoom out a little bit, we don't have information for all of the United States. I just had information for census tracts in Monroe County. And so now you're getting the idea for where the county starts and stops. And so now I'm looking at my data in the map. When I go back and I do some calculations in that value breakdown table, so I get my percent of units that are valued less than $100,000, I can do the exact same thing, bring that information in. And so this is a way that you can take some more control over exactly what information you're looking at, what you've calculated, and where in the map, you're zooming in and looking. We will be even more specific as next week goes on. We'll say, listen, can I just please look at census tracts that are in the city of Rochester? I really want to zoom in. We saw how you could use the select tool to click on things. It would be a big pain in the neck for me to click on every single census tract in the city of Rochester. So we're going to tell the map, like, hey, can you just grab all those census tracts that are within that city boundary? And I just want to look at those. And then we can look at that. This just gives you much more control over what's in your map, what you're showing, and how you're presenting it. So I'm going to pause here. That's enough to digest for the week. Please keep practicing these things as the week goes on. See if you can get Living Atlas to show you some stuff. See if you can extract some of that point data, so addresses that you can then bring into your map. See if you can even get one of your census tract level tables that you've downloaded from the census into a map. I would strongly recommend starting with a variable like median value or median income, even if it's not the most interesting one for you, because in one column, you've got everything you need. Practice with that. And then after you've got that down, you can go back and do more calculations to get something like that crazy table of value breakdowns to a meaningful thing that you can map. Please do not hesitate to reach out. This gets better. It is as painful as it will be right now. But most of the stuff we're going to do in this mapping program, we have already at least gone through once already. So I will hopefully hear from people who I can help through stuff over the course of the week, but then definitely see everybody on next Wednesday.